Hey, and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So just next week, July the 16th, we'll be getting the new expansion, Mountain of Flame for Neverwinter. With it brings a lot of new gear you can get. A reworked zone, Mount Hote now, graphics been updated, storyline a little bit too, and we get a new campaign with a whole host of new rewards, including, once you get to milestone 3, new legendary companion gear, which will be best in slot, and I'll recommend you go for it. Let's show exactly how to get it. First of all though, we gotta go and make sure to actually get to milestone 3. So at this point we were able to just do 4 weekly quests. 2 of them were just heroics and activities, and the other 2 were just going into like mini lairs, which meant it was a lot easier to get progress this week. 4 weekly quests gets you the 100 weekly haul. Finished. We now obtain the last piece for our fashion set, the headpiece. To be honest, not a big fan, but let's go and obtain that, convert it to our appearance library, and you can see it just there. Just, yeah, not a fan that it covers the eyes. Now we go to the campaign and we can see we unlock a few things. Many of the gear has milestone specific unlock requirements, like this artifact needs the 4th milestone. So once we got to the 3rd milestone, we're now able to obtain the epic armor here, the headpieces. With accessories, you'll be able to buy these blue rings. Not really sure why you would. To be honest, just avoid them. They have an actual diamond cost, and in most cases you can just do your heroic encounters and you will be able to obtain these epic rings, which are just a little bit better. They do seem to have done away with the upgrading of rings like we had in the previous module, and thank God for that. I thought it was just an absolute waste of everybody's time, particularly when we're just getting new gear the next module. But then we go to the companion gear, and yep, we can buy any of it. That's great. It does have 100,000 Astral Diamond cost, but that can be well worth it. It's got 2,200 item level, which is a significant improvement from the previous best, which is light as Araxis. You could get this here, 1,800 item level. It did only cost you 50,000 Astral Diamonds though. However, what is good about this new stuff is it's not buying on pickup like this was. You'll be able to actually purchase it and transfer it to alternate characters. However, unfortunately, when you do equip it, it is bound, so you can't just like buy one set and move it between characters. But yes, if you're striving to get towards endgame, I recommend picking this up. And as a newer player, I would as well. Save up the Astral Diamonds and get this. It's a significant item level boost. You'll be able to access this zone regardless of item level, so it should help any newer player out massively. The gear before Light as Araxis is like the North Dark Reaches, which is just even more expensive in terms of Astral Diamonds. Totally don't get this stuff, especially because it's only 1,600. And if you want to get free companion gear, sure, you can get a piece here, and then from the adventure, the Scaleblight Summit will give you a pack. But they're all like 1,350 item level, and they won't give you the stats you want. Ultimately, yeah, definitely go for this, and it's totally best in slot right now. Of course, if you don't need the item level and you're comfortable where you're at, then you can always wait a few modules and there'll be sure to be just more companion gear, higher item level again. It's all like this with gear. Every few modules, you'll generally be replacing something or other. This module, it will be your companion gear again. But ultimately, how to get all of it? What will you actually have to do? Well, the Astral Diamonds. That's the usual. I generally recommend, at least if you're a newer player, stick to getting your rough Astral Diamonds every day. And outside of that, you can just farm some content, hope to sell something. There's always opportunities to make extra Astral Diamonds elsewhere. So once you have that, you now need Delzoon trinkets, 250 of them. Where are you going to get those? Well, it's simply just the quest currency, as you'll find with all of these. The small repeatable quests will give you 12, and the weekly quests will give you 60. Now you can also do your heroic encounters. Your smaller heroics would just give you 10, and that's kind of the only ways you're going to be getting that currency, unfortunately. So it can be a bit of a grind, unless they drop it in the dungeon, which as per the previous modules, they have not done so. There's no mini bosses where you can farm that currency right now either. So again, a bit of a grind. Now with that, you will also need these Delzoon coins. And again, they are also just going to come from your quests. But you have a weekly cap. Every week you can only get 100. So the repeatable quests will give you 5 each. The weekly quests will give you 25. And again, you get a maximum of 100 per week. So we're at the 3rd milestone. We have 300 to spend. So you are limited at 1 gear piece per week. And that's per character. So if you did want to kit out your main character on the first week, you could buy the head start pack and then get your weekly haul, and you would have 300 currency and you could get it on day 1. All of your weekly haul will have to go into this. To be honest though, where else would you spend it? I would not buy the enchantments. I would not buy the accessories. I would not buy this armor. I would not buy these weapons. And I would not buy this artifact set. So yeah, you don't really have much else to spend the weekly haul currency on anyway. The only time potentially to buy weapons if you really have nothing else. But finally, you also need 60 of these Delzoon relics. These will very simply come from the new activity, Fire Giant Lockdown. You're going to have to kill these massive guys and they'll drop that currency for you. Now, it's not going to be as easy as I show here because I'm using like the buffer artifact, which allows you to essentially do like 4 times your normal amount of damage. So you could say there's 4 players here killing this guy. You will be in a populated zone. This is a preview test server. There's not many people here, so I'm just killing them alone. But yeah, you will need a party to kill these guys effectively, and it's going to take you still a few minutes. And they're going to be dotted around the map. You'll see their red icons, and you can check my previous video for more details on them. They'll also drop you some of the epic gear, which is again just stepping stone stuff. We'll cover that later. But each fire giant you kill gives you 15 of these. So you need 60 of the currency. Therefore, you need to kill 4 of those giants in order to just obtain 1 of these. So yeah, you just have to kill 12 giants. That's fine, to be honest, and you'll have enough for all of this. That currency you can spend in other areas here, but again, like with the other currency, I just wouldn't spend it on anything other than perhaps the weapons. So now you know everything that you need in order to actually obtain the gear. What ones would I recommend you pick up? What would you go for if you're a damage dealer, healer, or a tank? So if you're a damage dealer, what should you go for? Well, there are a few options, and it's going to vary a lot depending on what enchantments you have and insignias. This one can give you combat advantage, crit severity. This one, crit strike and crit severity. This one, accuracy, combat advantage, and forte. And finally, combat advantage, crit severity, and forte. The easiest option to fit into the majority of builds is most likely going to be accuracy, combat advantage, and forte. But you might struggle to fit the combat advantage if you use rings with the combat advantage, which we were using in Wild Space. But since we're leaving that, we're most likely going to want to run, say, the dragon ring in the last boss fight of the new dungeon. That's just all crit strike. But then the accuracy ring is still very valuable, and that's all combat advantage. The new rings are just really terrible, but if you wanted to go with the damage bonus ring, that is also combat advantage rating. And if you wanted to go with the new ring that would give you like 5% combat advantage, then that's going to have crit strike and crit severity rating. So yeah, accuracy rating is going to generally be more valuable. And if your ratings are just going to look like mine, all red, then it might just be better off going for the companion gear with a higher emphasis on forte. This one is going to be the most likely easiest one to fit into all of your builds. Doesn't have so much combat advantage, doesn't have so much crit severity, and just more front loaded on forte. The other ones, this has probably got too much combat advantage for you. This one also, and then just crit strike and crit severity. Yeah, the rings are just not going to fit that so well. Again, you can buy 3 pieces of the exact same type and use all 3 pieces. Right now, my endgame builds are using combat advantage crit severity. So if you're also using that and balance your stats with those, well, there's a very simple upgrade with that, and that's just this one here, combat advantage crit severity. you're not going to have to change your build much at all to fit that if you're already using them. I just not really sure what gear I want to be using, what rings and things like that. So I'm going to have to go and look at certain builds, and I'll give my advice in those builds of what to use. So for now, yeah, you do have 4 good options here, and I would probably tend towards the Molten Tome of the Companion just because it has the forte, and that's like something that's very easy to fit. But as a much newer player who doesn't have any of your ratings maxed out, you're most likely going to get the most value out of crit strike and crit severity in like questing and solo content, and then in party content, combat advantage and crit severity. From there we go to healers. What should you grab? Well, again, that's going to depend on your gear, enchantments, insignias, but there are a few good options. Crit strike, outgoing healing, forte and outgoing healing, and the crit strike, crit severity. In most cases, I would go with the forte and outgoing healing, at least if you're getting towards endgame, getting all those enchantments, all of those insignias, because you just won't be able to fit in like crit strike and crit severity ratings, and so you'll tend towards needing more outgoing healing, unless you've got a bunch of, say, rhythm insignias, which are generally more expensive, so most won't have those, and you won't get outgoing healing on enchantments other than your one utility one, so that can be the most valuable choice there. But if you're a complete newer healer, you'd probably get more value out of crit strike and outgoing healing, just because you won't have your crit strike maxed out. But then for tanks, what would I go for? Well, if you want your survivability, the best stats I suggest you have is awareness and critical avoidance, very good. Defense and deflection, not very good. So you've pretty much just got one choice here, the awareness and critical avoidance, and that'll definitely fit into most of your builds. You might want to, if you're using a lot of critical avoidance ratings on your enchantments, switch 1 or 2 out for like awareness. Unfortunately, there's none with, say, incoming healing for tanks. Ultimately, hopefully this helps how to get all that companion gear so you know what to prepare for, what to do. Again, be aware you have to get to milestone 3. So the only way to get this gear day 1 would be to get the head start pack and then do a bunch of grinding, and you'll be able to buy all 3 pieces straight away. Head start pack will get you to milestone 2, and then that weekly haul will get you to 300. Ultimately, you'll get a significant item level boost if you were already using the Light of Xeraxis companion gear at 1800, then you will get a 1600 item level boost from this new gear. More than that if you're using the lower gear. I will purchase one of these gear pieces and I'll show you the bind status on it. We can see it is now just account bound. We can move it to an alternate character via the bank and equip it there, and then it will become stuck character bound. So just be careful. So once again, thanks for watching. A massive thank you to all of these channel members for your extra support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.